Good morning and welcome to today's stream. Now, today's a bit of a special show as I will be interviewing Bryn from Blue Bear Coffee. And as always on a Friday, I do drink my Blue Bear coffee, and that is out of my Blue Bear Keep mug. And we're going to be going through how Blue Bear actually started with Bryn. And if you do want to go and have a look at the coffees and everything that they do, then please go and go to bluebearcoffee.com. So I first met Bryn virtually last September when I was on a mastermind with him. And it was at that stage where Bryn told his whole story. And I don't think there was a dry eye on the virtual call because it was such a compelling story. So I wanted to bring Bryn on to today's show so that he could tell that story to my audience as well, but also, how we've worked together. So I'm going to bring Bryn on now.
Hello, people.
Hi, Bryn. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me. That timer at the start was actually very helpful. I've got my cafetiere of coffee here, and if you didn't know, the best brew time for a cafetiere of coffee is exactly 4 minutes. So I watched the countdown and set it to 4 minutes so I could get my coffee right. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, no, I'm doing well. At one stage last night, I thought I might actually have my son on the show with us as well because he has been feeling a little bit under the weather. So he was quite excited by the fact, but luckily for us, he felt better this morning, so he's off to school. So, but yeah, other than that, it's.
I'm glad he's feeling better, and this seems to be working, which is great. I think I had a few connection issues this morning, and the baseball cap was a last-minute thing because whatever I did, I couldn't seem to get my hair looking anything other than terribly unkempt.
Yeah, so hopefully we don't lose Bryn this morning. Bryn's actually moved to a new apartment, and he only gets his broadband installed tomorrow, I think it is. So he's actually tethered, which is not normally how I would advise my clients to do interviews, but I've been promising this for a while, so we're just going to go ahead and hopefully it all stays together.
Hopefully, yes. No, it's been good. I've been looking forward to this chance for us to chat.
Yeah, I've kind of been teasing everyone about this for a while now because I kind of started the show in January, and at the beginning of every show, I promote the Blue Bear coffee, and I think I'm actually drinking the El Salvador this morning.
Nice.
So I kind of promote that because your story behind it all really kind of compelled me to try and help you as much as possible, and we will get into that later in the show. So let's kind of get started. We're talking, Blue Bear Coffee, but what were you actually doing before you started Blue Bear Coffee?
Yeah, life before Blue Bear was somewhat different. So my background's not in coffee. Although I run a coffee business, I can't claim to have spent many years behind an espresso machine, sort of cutting my teeth. My background was in the police force. I was a police officer here in Norwich, where I'm speaking to you today. I worked here for 4 years before transferring to the Met in East London, where I worked as a surveillance officer on a crime squad in Newham. And I left the police in 2014, not for any particularly scandalous or outrageous reasons, I hasten to add. But I left in order to pursue a bit more autonomy, I think, a bit more control over my life. And I started a security company with another ex-police officer here in Norfolk. It went down in history, actually, for being the least successful security company in the UK. I think we got almost no clients. And then I thought, well, maybe I can supplement this failing business with another. So I started a landscaping business, and it was designed around doing jobs that people didn't have time to. So I called it Can't Be Grassed. And that was equally unsuccessful. I I managed to strim a stone through my one and only client's living room window on my first time around her garden, and that was the end of that. So that was you're wondering how this all leads to Blue Bear, but I ended up going back to London. I got a job, amazingly, working as a bodyguard for a Middle Eastern royal family. I spent a couple of years with them, which led to another client, and I spent about 5 or 6 years working in close protection and security consultancy roles with very high-profile individuals in London and around the world, and that was the precursor to the start of Blue Bear.
Okay, so you've pretty well travelled then.
Yes, and I think since COVID, I have grown a new appreciation actually for how many places I've managed to visit in recent years, and I really do miss it. I really do miss grabbing my passport. I've used every opportunity whenever there's been a gap or a plenary in my life between jobs or house moves or whatever stages of life I've been moving through. The first thing I tend to do is reach for my passport, book a flight somewhere, and do some traveling. So I really feel chafed, like we all do, I imagine, since COVID in regard to that. But yes, I've enjoyed the opportunity to visit other countries. And
which one would you say is your favorite?
Well, I'd have to say the Dominican Republic, which is where I lived for a year working for an organization, which I'll very happily tell you a little bit of a story about. But I've been to some fantastic places, but the Dominican holds a special place in my heart now.
Yeah, no, I've with my dad was actually worked for a multinational company, so I've lived in a couple of countries. Lived in France and now the UK. So yeah, I had nowhere like the Dominican Republic, but it sounds fun. Sounds very interesting though.
It was interesting indeed. Dominican Republic's a fascinating country because people have two very different experiences of it. Most people will know of it for its white beaches and its blue skies and its beautiful Caribbean waters. And they'll go there and they'll stay somewhere like Punta Cana and they'll stay in a 5-star resort and have cocktails served to them all day long from their poolside seat. But it's also a complex country. It's an incredibly poor country. Many people don't know it's the same island. It shares the same landmass as Haiti, and Haiti being the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. So there's a great deal of poverty in the Dominican Republic and a great deal of social issues. And that was the reason I was there. But the bonus of being there was to enjoy my time off on some of the most beautiful beaches on this planet. So it was a complex experience, but I saw the darkest corners of the country and some of its most beautiful as well.
Oh wow! So then, how did actually Blue Bear actually come to actually exist? Because I know you said you don't really know much about coffee. So how did that actually come about?
It's not very reassuring, is it, for me to be so open about my amateurism when it comes to coffee? No, well, I was working in Mayfair actually, and a few years ago I found myself as an advisor to a venture capital firm that had a very high-profile board of directors, and I'd spent a year with them, and I enjoyed it. I must admit, I enjoyed working in close protection. It enabled me to see amazing places around the world that are only really available to the sort of 0.01% of the world's population. I was there, albeit as a servant, as a door opening, bag carrying, bulletproof jacket, but it was still a privilege, and I did enjoy it. But it was a long way from pursuing justice, and I think that's the key reason I chose to be a police officer, and that's what I missed most about the police, was the pursuits of justice, of standing up for people that didn't have anybody to stand up for them. They didn't have a big brother to look after them, and I connected with that cause above most. And I remember walking into the office, quite palpable experience of walking into the office and looking at my desk in the corner of my chair and just feeling like I didn't want to sit in it anymore. And I decided to leave that job, and I didn't really have a cargo net to jump into. It was a undefined period of unemployment that followed. And I met with a friend, and he sort of questioned me, well, what would you choose to do if you could do anything? If you didn't have to worry about paying your rent or paying your bills, if that wasn't a barrier, if that wasn't a restriction, what would you choose to do? And as I really thought about it, I remembered an organization that I had been supporting with a direct debit for several years. And it's called International Justice Mission. It's headquartered in Washington, D.C., and it works in countries all over the world pursuing issues of justice. And they principally focused on fighting human trafficking, but have also taken on other issues such as citizens' rights and land rights and online exploitation and other different varieties of injustice. And they do so with lawyers, they do so with lobbying the local parliament, and they do so with investigators. And as an ex-investigator, I thought, well, maybe I would go and work for them. And I went on their website and looked for jobs. Okay, let's entertain this idea. And they had one position that they were recruiting for, which was in Ghana. There is a lake in Ghana, huge lake called Lake Volta, and on it there are many fishing vessels, and many fishing vessels that use children to do the fishing, to do the dangerous bit of going down and laying nets and collecting nets, and they're often abused, sadly, and in all manner of ways. And this investigation was trying to root that out. And I looked at the job as this director of investigations, and the job criteria, which is always an intimidating thing to read, isn't it? I don't know if you've done that, but it just had so many things that I couldn't feel like the best amount of embellishing of my CV would qualify me to do it. It was must have served 25 years in law enforcement, must have looked after hundreds of members of staff or whatever. And I thought my 5 years in the police, even with the best spit shine, isn't probably going to qualify for me for that position. But on the website, they advertised roles for interns and fellows. So these were voluntary roles. Interns, people who were going to university, had a passion, had an interest, wanted to spend their summer helping out a project, and fellows, people with professional experience that would come and spend a year with one of these projects. And that's what I did. I applied, and about 2 weeks before I flew out, it was only a very, very last minute change. I was due to be going to India, and in the last minute they changed my flight. They saw that I'd left Spanish on my CV, and they said, would you fancy going to the Dominican Republic in the Caribbean? And I thought that, yeah, why not? So I ended up in the Dominican Republic, even with 3.5 words of Spanish in my arsenal. That was about it. And it was a complex project. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a great deal of poverty, there's a great deal of inequality, and all manner of other socioeconomic reasons. There's a very high percentage of children in the sex industry in the Dominican Republic. So the baseline study that was conducted by this organization prior to them launching a project estimated that 10% of the sex workers were under 18. They were, in fact, children. And
Wow.
and that might not sound such a shocking statistic, I don't know, but if you were to visit the Dominican Republic and see just how much of society work in that trade, it's such a heady business because of the issues of poverty and other social causes, that it's an drastically, inexcusably high number. One is a high number, isn't it, for such a terrible thing to
Yeah,
take
no,
place? But in this regard, it was thousands, and the project was there to change that, but particularly to find children that were being exploited, that were being trafficked, that were being coerced into this by another actor, and then route it out to work with the police. This wasn't a vigilante group. Everything was done in line with the police, and the element that I could contribute was the fact that I didn't look like a Dominican. I could play a pretty convincing tourist with very little Spanish, because that was essentially what I was. The only difference being that I would deploy in red light districts, in brothels and street corners, on beaches, and just try and find pimps that were selling girls. And then we would close the net alongside the police. We would gather information, intelligence, and evidence, and close the net. And that was my job. And it was a very, very difficult year, but it was also a humbling and a gratifying experience. And Blue Bear, you're wondering where I'm going to get to.
Yeah.
Well, I went on a job about 6 months into my time there. It was coming up to Christmas, and we received this complaint from a local police officer that had got to them through a girl. A girl had spoken to her school teacher. School teacher told the police told us, and we responded. We traveled to the north of the island to investigate this case, and she was explaining that her mother, she was a 14-year-old girl, her mother was exploiting her as she was selling her body to men in the local community. She didn't have a dad. She had a long history of sexual abuse. And she's only speaking out about it now at this stage of life because she had noticed the attention starts to pass on to her little sister. And she thought, well, I'm not going to witness what's happened to me. And she very bravely spoke out. We were able to mount a very fast and reactive investigation and close the nets and release this girl and her younger siblings from that situation of suffering. And her mother and the men that were accused of abusing her were arrested and taken away and held to justice. And one of the things people think about being an investigator is the glory of kicking down a door, scooping up a victim and walking out into the sunset, some sort of Hollywood film. It doesn't work like that. That is not the reality. You're there to gather evidence, to step back and present it to law enforcement. So sometimes you don't ever get to see the fruit of your work. But on this occasion, I was really fortunate enough to get a text from a friend that worked on the same project as me. She was an aftercare worker, and she sent a photo of her in the back of the car with this young girl and her brother and sister, and said, we're all safe and sound heading to the safe house after they'd been rescued. And I noticed in this picture that the girl that had made this allegation, and I'd read her most powerful statement, was clutching this teddy bear. And it wasn't a sort of teddy bear that you and I might think of, our heads might go to, our imaginations might. It was barely a teddy bear. It was held together by sort of string and spits and dirty and disheveled. But that was clearly her item of value. She had asked, the team had asked her, is there anything we can get from home for you? That was the one thing she wanted a teddy bear, probably given to her by an abusive parent or someone that was exploiting her. And for me, in that moment, in that snapshot, in that image, I just felt so crestfallen, so heartbroken, just at the depravity that represented. And I didn't know what to do about it. It happened to be Christmas. I was flying home for Christmas, and I carried that story with me. But I decided to raise some money, and I thought I'd go back to the Dominican Republic with a pot of cash. Now, I couldn't make a big thing about it. My nature was a covert job. I couldn't go online and bang the drum. But I spoke to some friends, and we raised a couple of thousand pounds. And I returned to the Dominican Republic with this pot of cash. So I went to that aftercare team and said, well, we've got this money. How can we help? And that was the money that they didn't have a budget for. So it was things like milk formula for the young children when girls were taken out of these situations and they had their own children. Or it was, we went out and bought a load of teddy bears and it became a teddy bear fund. And then we got to engage in slightly more longer term needs, educational needs, healthcare needs. And it's not a sustainable way of doing charity. But it was the best part of my experience, was being a link in a chain that connected resources with real need and cutting out all the rest.
Yeah.
And I got to the end of this year with an idea. What if I can keep this £2,000 fund going? Rather than it dry up, how can we sustain it? How can we do it and scale it? And I thought, rather than ask people for money, why don't we create a business? Let's start a business that can scale and sustainably give. And that will be the sole objective of this business. So that was Blue Bear Coffee Company, named after the blue bear that sat on this child's lap. And that was the start of the concept.
Yeah. So you know, for the viewers out there, if you actually, Bryn has part of this story actually on the website, and there is an actual photograph of the teddy bear that this young girl had, and as you'll see from the photo, it is so disheveled, and you know, you wouldn't really call it a bear. And you know, it's such a heartfelt story, and I think this is where, you know, it catches a lot of people, because, you know, unfortunately today, you know, we just go on with our lives, and you don't, you know, you might hear it in the news every now and again, but you know, to know that there's people out there that are there to, you know, support these young girls and trying to stop this kind of human trafficking, and that is just, and the kind of the sex, you know, sex slaves and all that. It's just, you know, it's heartfelt, you know, to know that, you know, there's people like Bryn that are out there that have got this bigger mission to try and stop this. It's just incredible. And you know, go and have a look at the website. It's yeah, it does touch you. And you know, if you can, you know, support you know, Blue Bear Coffee as much as you can. Now, why did you actually choose coffee as your kind of vehicle for this?
It's a good question, isn't it? Especially when I know so little about it, or at least I did. I hope my knowledge is pretty decent now. But I think coffee was I think coffee was chosen for a number of reasons, and I love the ubiquitous nature of coffee. I love that students like buying nice coffee. The CEOs of Fortune 500 companies like buying nice coffee. It's everywhere, isn't it? We see it on every street corner. There's a coffee shop these days, and I wanted to pick something that was broad, that it wasn't niche, it wasn't exclusive, because we wanted to have as broad a range of customers, as broad a field of people that we could engage as possible, rather than rule people out. And I'm actually amazed, since starting a coffee company, how many people tell me I don't drink coffee, which is slightly frustrating. But maybe we'll branch into tea one day. But at the moment, we're still with coffee, but it also gives us this opportunity to actually engage in a best practice model of trading.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you actually source your coffee?
Well, we it works on both ends. So in the way that we support charities, I didn't want us to create a charity, create our own empire, go out and do the same thing that's already been done by amazing organizations. It's sort of the same with coffee. It's going to take me some years to develop the knowledge about coffee, about farming, about roasting, than a specialty coffee company has done. And so why not partner with them? And that's how Blue Bear has been created. It's all about partnership. So we partnered with an amazing specialty coffee roaster in Bristol, in the southwest of England, called Clifton Coffee Roasters. Multi-award winning roaster. Happened to have a friend that's their director of coffee, and I went down there and we met, and it all just seemed to dovetail quite nicely. So they source the coffee. And what's different about our coffee to perhaps some of the coffees that line the shelves of many people is that we make sure that there is real transparency in our supply chain. We want to know exactly where our coffees come from. It's not enough to say Colombian coffee. Okay, what farm? What's the name? What's their rate of pay? We ensure that the rate we pay at source for our coffee is always over 100% of the fair trade rate. That's the 100% of the fair trade rate, not just the coffee market rate. So we pay significantly higher value for our coffee to ensure that the farmers are getting a fair product. And we work with exporters and directly with farms that go to every measure possible to extinguish the opportunities of slavery in their supply chain. Now, I want to be really clear that it's very, very difficult to say that it's slavery free. So it's not a statement that we make, because I think it's dangerous to make broad statements like that. But it's as close as we can get, without owning every element of the supply chain, which I also don't think is a healthy model. It's about as close as we can get. And we do everything we can to ensure that people aren't being exploited in this product. And we think that's the best business model for commodity trading. So we get to affect the issue of human trafficking, not just at one end with our profits, but actually in our sourcing. I think one of the best ways to fight trafficking is to prevent trafficking. And one way of doing that is paying people the right wage for their work. It prevents vulnerability. And in doing so, it prevents situations of modern slavery and human trafficking.
So yeah, so no, kind of the one thing that I admire about your business is that that you have that strong drive to support charities. So you help out on the coffee side, but tell us more. What else do you actually do? With Blue Bear Coffee?
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, what we want to do is use our profits and our profile. So what's left at the end of the year, we will retain a percentage of that for things like website costs, accountant costs, any core costs of the business. To date, I think we're 2.5 years old. We'll be 3 years old in September. I, as the director and only employee, I've still not taken any remuneration. No one really does earn any money out of Blue Bear, including Jason, that so kindly built our latest website, has done that pro bono. So that's how it works, is we keep our running costs as small as possible, so that at the end of the year, what's left, we can give away. That's the reason Blue Bear exists, right? It's not a coffee company that gives a bit of its money away. It's there for the function of fundraising and doing it through a product. And then we take whatever engagement tools we had, our Instagram account, our Facebook, our Twitter, any social media feeds. We have a newsletter, we have a podcast, and we bring these issues to the table. We try and discuss them through things like what we're doing now, Jason, conversations and interviews, and we want to try and reach people that are otherwise unengaged with this issue. And I think by using a product and then everything we have with our communications, we might reach people that have seen a documentary perhaps, but actually we'll give them an opportunity where you can engage in this. The first thing you can do is buy our coffee and know that we're using our profits not to to buy me a nice car, but to give to really establish and effective organizations that are taking on this issue. But also, hey, can we tell you a little bit more about our partners? Because if we can share more about our partners, perhaps you'll go above what you're doing with coffee and engage with them, fundraise for them, pay a direct debit to them, be part of what they're doing. And that's what we want to be. We want to be a conduit of engagement in exactly the same way that I was in the Dominican Republic between my English friends and the need in the Dominican. We just want to be a link in a chain to connect need with resources. And that's how we function.
Yeah, that's a really powerful way, because normally charities ask, can you just donate, and and some people, loads of people do that, but I think by kind of selling the coffee, people are getting, not that you don't get something in return when you donate to charity, of course, you have that feeling of helping someone, but to have something kind of physical that you enjoy as well, but knowing that the money that you're using to buy the coffee and the keep cups and chocolate and all that's now on the website, that's going to a noble cause as well, but it's just fundraising in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we wanted to do. What I was keen not to do is to rob Peter to pay Paul, and to build my own empire that was going to detract from the excellent work that was already being done. Let's try not to do that. Let's try and build the capacity of existing projects. Let's try and shine the light on them. Let's try and grow their social media feeds and followers and support. So that was a real conscious decision, and I think by doing it the way we do with a product, it gives us a degree of neutrality. That's quite helpful, that people are open to engaging with us. We're not trying to detract from what they're doing to bring the attention to us. We want to be a mirror. We want to deflect always.
Yeah, you don't have to reinvent the wheel on how to support them. They already have those organizations. They have all that infrastructure in place already, but a lot of the times they need that support to keep that going and build on that infrastructure. And if you go to bluebearcoffee.com, you'll see the charities and all that are on there that Blue Bear Coffee support as well. So please go and have a read of that as well. And while you're there, check out the coffees. There's 6 different blends on there at the moment. They have the keep cups, and I love my keep cup, and and this chocolate on there as well. And I can vouch for the chocolate. It's really good. But also, about the whole Blue Bear, story, there is a bear for sale as well called Justice on the website. And tell us a bit more about Justice. How did that come about?
Oh, yes, thank you, Jason. Well, you're doing a far better job than me at advertising our own products. And Justice the bear, yes, thank you for mentioning him or her. Whatever you prefer is fine. We were on the bear hunt, excuse the pun, for some time. We wanted to have a little mascot that we could have for Blue Bear, a blue teddy bear, to sort of complete the circle on our journey, and found it so hard. And I think over 90% of soft toys are created in China and in certain circumstances that we just couldn't be confident that they were slavery free, they were free of exploitation. And certainly because of the way Blue Bear has been created, we want to aspire to be as best practice as possible. And that comes down to not just paying people the right money, but actually in terms of the materials we use. We wanted to use things that weren't full of plastics that were polluting local rivers and all those sort of things. So we took a lot of time to find a fair trade organic cotton teddy bear provider. We found one in a partner, once again, called Woolly Organic. They're in Latvia, and we built a relationship, and they created Justice for us. So Justice the bear is a very expensive teddy, but he's a loved one. He's been made lovingly by Woolly Organic, and all of the products that have been made and stuffed inside Justice haven't brought harm to anybody. And they're the sort of products we want to sell, even if they're a bit more expensive than another bear in Toys R Us.
But you know, everyone can see the kind of the love and the effort that you put into all your products that you have on the website. You know, it's not just, you know, sourcing the coffee, but even just having a teddy bear. There's a lot of work that's involved in making sure that, you know, everything you put on your website follows your, you know, your whole concept. And you know, sometimes people don't see that effort that's put into all of that.
Well, I think it's important to be consistent. We need to be consistent with our values and aspire. I mean, we're not perfect at the moment. Our coffee bags are plastic. We want to change that. We looked into it earlier, but it was so unaffordable that we would actually make a loss with every coffee that we sold. And of course, that's not a sustainable way of doing business. We're hoping on our next purchase we'll be able to make a bigger purchase of coffee bags so we can afford to start buying compostable, recyclable coffee bags. So we want to aspire to be better, to have less of a negative impact, less of a carbon footprint. I should also add about justice, which I forgot. £5 from every bear, we think, is what the profit is in the bear. So 100% of the profits from justice, we think there's about £5, maybe what's that, about $7, are built into each teddy that will go straight to the original teddy bear fund in the Dominican Republic. So I should have made that clear, which I think quite key, isn't it? So it's absolutely continuing that circle. But yes, in regard to what we source, it's important that we are consistent with our values, and we're always striving to improve that. We want to be an example of best practice wherever possible. And when you do that, it's very hard to be profitable. And often that's the sacrifice you have to make. But it's more important for us to not harm the planet or it's all in doing this business than to create money to then go and try and solve the problems we've created.
Yeah, no, that's it like I said, it takes effort, and you know, if you want to again, you know, support Blue Bear in helping Bryn, you know, advance the packaging and all of that, you know, please go and support them on the website by buying coffee or buy Justice as well. But yeah, as you know, I work with heart-centered businesses that have a mission, and you know, it's not money related. Yes, money is kind of secondary, but their passion is helping, you know, their clients in whatever field they're in. Yourself, you know, with supporting the charities. You know, Blue Bear to me falls directly into that category. You know, you're so passionate about what you do, and do you see yourself as a heart-centered businesses, and you know, what does that kind of heart-centered business means? You know, I've got a lot of clients. I always say that I help heart-centered businesses to build and automate their online marketing, and sometimes people are kind of wondering, what does heart-centered mean to you? And that's why I want to start this as a series. So you know, I will interview other clients and other people as well. You know, asking these types of questions, because you know, you want to find out more about those people and what our heart-centered business is. So you know, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I like that phrase, heart-centered business. I hope we do qualify for that. This is not a business that trades and a percentage of its profits are given to charity in order to appease stakeholders for a CSR policy. It's not a greenwashing campaign. It's the very sole purpose that we exist, and it's at our core. And we want to be regularly reminded of it. And sometimes I can become exasperated with work, but our focus is to meet this need, and it motivates us through the difficult days. And there are times when I've come off phone calls trying to sell what I think is a great product, and I'm met with indifference, and it's I find that quite painful sometimes, and I'm so emotionally invested in this scheme. But I have to remember, actually, you know, just pick your heels up, keep going, do your best. And if it was me selling trainers or paper clips or something benign like that, I think I would have given up long ago. I don't classify myself as a natural entrepreneur. I don't get a huge thrill from the balance sheet. I only do this because it's my best effort to continue to serve the children that I encountered on that experience. And I'm more and more conscious of the different countries, the different areas, including our own, that have people in vulnerable situations. And I think when you lift up the rock and see what's underneath it, it's very hard to put it back and carry on with your life. I was very keen not to let it become a picture frame in my life, and I close the book on it and move on and reflect on it occasionally. No, that's not right. And so I think Blue Bear is a heart-centered business, and I think there are more. There was an article written by the editor of Lionel Barber, the editor of the Financial Times, a few years ago, that called an end to profit being the leading purpose of business. To actually put purpose, they put purpose with profit. I would put our purpose and our people and the planet above profit. But I think it's a really good sign that more and more businesses are putting that first. That, well, what good can we do with this, rather than it being a supplementary issue.
And I totally agree with you on that. A lot of businesses are starting to realize that it's not always about profit yet. Okay, if you've got shareholders, it's hard to say, well, we're going to do this now. But I think especially with yourself, you found your calling, and it's something that you truly are passionate about. And I think that goes a long way. And in like you say, in the dark times when things aren't quite going right, having that kind of mission kind of drives you on through that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's the reason to get up and pick yourself up when you're feeling a little bit sorry for yourself. And I need it from time to time, but it keeps us focused. And that's another reason why we ended up going with Blue Bear as our brand. It was originally called Justice Coffee, and my idea behind that was, if I call it Justice Coffee, I can potentially run this anonymously. It can develop an identity of its own, and I can slip back into the world of investigating these matters or whatever. But actually, by calling it Blue Bear, it's had more traction, and it's kept us focused. Why are we doing this? Well, it cannot be more connected to that original story.
I think that story is what gets to people. Yes, calling it Justice Coffee, people could get on board with it, but calling it Blue Bear and telling them the story about the blue bear teddy bear that the little girl had, and the story behind that, I think that's just so much more powerful. And and like you said, it's what drives the whole mission.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that I think people relate to teddy bears, and we see Pugsy the bear in the UK with children in need, don't we? There's a familiarity about children and teddies. There's an innocence there, and it gets people. And I actually told my story to a friend when I came back, and she went away and wrote a book for children, and it's called Brave, a story of friendship and freedom. And it's about a teddy bear and a coffee roaster and a little girl, and it's amazing. It's turned it into a charity, the Brave Bear Trust, and it's now distributing books to schools up and down the country, and with it an education curriculum around bringing up this subject to junior school kids about trafficking and exploitation in a sensitive and appropriate manner. Isn't that amazing? That just came from a story. So it does plant seeds, and people have gone away and done great things with them. So I think it turned out to be the right call.
Yeah, and if you're wondering, Bryn and I are in discussions, and that book should hopefully appear on the website at some point in the near future. We just need to discuss that behind the scenes, but that would definitely be something to add to the website.
Yes, that's on our to-do list, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, we have a little bit of a to-do list. So, kind of on to the next question is, like, we've been working together since September, from when I first heard your story. We're in a mastermind with another kind of client of mine, and I'm one of her partners, and that's Sarah Price from Actually. She's now changed the name slightly because she's now a limited company. But if you go to actually.world, you'll see she's everything about PR, and she's the one that kind of got us together really. So we've kind of been working together since September. Before I think you had a Shopify site, but since then we've taken that site and added more things to it. So I don't know if you want to tell them what we've added to it.
I would love to tell people about that, but first I would want to make it really clear that I get to talk about Blue Bear quite a bit at groups, things like what Jason attended, this mastermind event, and on podcasts and radio shows, wherever the opportunity comes, I'll never turn one down. And most people respond positively. I think very much the majority, but occasionally someone sticks around at the end and says, I want to help. And that's what Jason did. And he has been so generous with his time. He's built us a brand new website from scratch. I can't imagine what that would have cost if I was paying him as a private client, but he'd done that because he wanted to help. And that's the gifting that he has. That's the skill that he has. And I hugely appreciate it. So I was suffering some frustration with the Shopify platform we used. It wouldn't really allow us to use subscriptions. It was very expensive, and it was quite restrictive. But in the early terms, I didn't want to totally redo it because I think we could potentially lose customers. So Jason said, well, I'll help. How can I help? Let's build a new one. As simple as that. And he did. He built us a new website, and we've engaged with other platforms that give us more flexibility. We've started a subscription model, which is something I've wanted to do for 2 years. The amount of talks I've been to, and people have said, hey, have you ever thought about doing a subscription? Yes, I have, from day one. But the platform was so restrictive in our options. Now we have two models, don't we? We have the chance for people to reorder their favorite coffee, and that'll turn up once a month or whatever the regularity they set. But we also have a coffee club, which is like a chocolate or a wine club or a beer club or a cheese club. We send out a different exclusive coffee. So it's not a coffee already on our offering online to our coffee club members every month. And it's always specialty coffee. It comes with a story, comes with information about where it's been farmed. And they'll get a trip with us around the world's coffee belt as we explore coffee from different countries and continents. And that's something I've always wanted to do. It's something I wanted to receive, but this has given us a chance to build it. And that's really exciting. There's lots more we want to develop with Blue Bear Online and with our giving and with our storytelling. And it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to this relationship and what it's going to mean going forward. But I would make it so clear to your viewers that I'm so grateful because, I get a lot of nice words and platitudes, but it's not always that often that people really commit time that costs them to our cause. And I'm incredibly grateful for it.
I know, it's my pleasure. I've got young kids. My daughter's just turned 7. My son is 4, and he'll be turning 5 next Thursday. So when you were talking about child slavery and the horrific conditions that they were put through, it especially having a daughter, it really struck a chord with me. And my passion is to help people online, be it building websites, membership sites, landing page, whatever. I always find that people always get stuck with the online tech. Yes, there's a lot of YouTube videos and all that, but what I've experienced is people get stuck on the tech, and they could be 6 months just trying to work out how to do sometimes simple things, and that's what I'm here to try and do. So hearing your story, it really did kind of get to me. And when you were discussing about what you wanted to do on the site and the restrictions that you had, to me it was kind of a no-brainer to just rebuild it. I've got the skills. So let me help in that way. I might not have the business experience as some of the others that were on the mastermind, but when it came to the technical side, that's where I thrive. So to me, that was my way of trying to support you. And as you said, we've now just launched the coffee club. If you sign up by the last day of the month, it gets processed the first day of the month, depending if it's on the weekend or not. But it gets processed and then gets sent out to you, and you will get different coffees. So that launched at the beginning of this month was the first one that went out. Second one goes out next month. So, if you do want to go and experience these different coffees, and, please go to the website, bluebearcoffee.com, and subscribe there. You definitely won't be disappointed. I love my coffee, but I must say, some of the different ones that I've tried from Blue Bear have been good. I think my favorite's probably been the Christmas one, the Donkey Lot one. I really like that one. And I've just actually today I had the El Salvador, but go and have a look at all those the different coffees on there. It's they are really good. I think I told my neighbor about the whole story. So hopefully, she told me yesterday that she's going to be subscribing. So it's getting the word out to everyone and telling them, it's not just the coffee. There's a mission behind it, and by supporting it, and at the end of the day you get great coffee as well. So please go and support that. But what is your kind of vision kind of going forward now, with Blue Bear Coffee? Because I know, as you said before, at the moment it's not something that can sustain you, so you do other work alongside it, but what do you see the vision for Blue Bear Coffee going forward?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited. And at the outset, my sort of calamitous back record of starting businesses. I don't come from a long history of successful entrepreneurship at all, but Blue Bear can only be described as a success. We did really well last year, and I don't say that to brag, only in my weaknesses, because even though COVID happened and we lost all of our wholesale customers, people came out and started ordering coffee from home, and far more customers that we had prior to COVID. So we saw a real spike in sales, and it's continuing stronger and stronger, which is so encouraging. And it's because of people like you, Jason, talking to your neighbor, and your neighbor talking to her friend, and so on and so forth, that it seems to be gaining traction and gaining momentum. And that's my vision for Blue Bear. I want it to be a community. I want it to go out and stretch out and engage with people that may otherwise be unengaged by this topic, to do it gently, to get into their kitchen tables, to get into their offices, to get into their morning routines, and let them know that actually you've already done something good today. Coffee is doing something good today. It's a great way to start your day, isn't it? So that's my vision. It's just to grow and to scale. The bigger we go, the more people we can engage, the more people we can direct to amazing projects, and engage them with amazing projects and amazing charities. But also the more influence we can have when we get to our end of year profits, we can give away more. It's as simple as that, really. I hope that we can do that in more creative ways as soon as restrictions allow. We're very keen to get up and down the country and attend festivals and events, have a presence there, meet more people, talk about Blue Bear. And I'm always wrestling with the idea of having a coffee shop. Maybe one day that will happen, maybe it won't. It's very difficult business to make successful. But
yeah, I know at one stage you had a Land Rover as well. Did anything happen with that? I know. I think the pandemic probably put a bit of a hole in that plan.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, Jason.
Yes, sorry.
It was more reminiscent of my earlier ideas with the landscape business. Yes, I bought a 35-year-old Land Rover Defender, and without any knowledge about the vehicle whatsoever, and drove it off from this guy's address, and someone flashed me from behind. Turned out it was pouring diesel all over the
oh no,
all over the motorway, and then it just started from there, and it didn't stop. And unfortunately, it was one problem after the other. So I sold it and to a mechanic that likes to do up things like that, I think, and he's happy. But that was the end. That was the premature end of the mobile coffee business. I don't know if you've not noticed, Jason. There's a question that's come up here from Mark saying, "Do you think the industry will go back to normal after COVID, or is it changed forever?" I presume Mark means the coffee industry. I don't know. I think everything's changed forever. I think in all of its many different ways. I think having a coffee shop has always been a challenge, and because of the fact we've worked with coffee shops, providing them as a wholesale supplier of coffee, I'm aware of the pressure that's on small businesses. By the time they pay their staffing costs, pay their fixed costs, their overheads, their rent, their rates, you've got to be a busy business to break even, let alone make a small profit. And because of the shutdown, businesses have had to streamline. They've had to think creatively. They've had to think outside of the box, quite literally outside of their shop. How can we do this online? So I think there will be a real proliferation of online businesses. I think the reduction of fixed costs is such, it's been brought into, if people weren't already aware of it, just the weight of carrying a mortgage or a lease is huge. And I think people will be looking to do more mobile coffee, more event coffee, more creative solutions. Well, let's make amazing products from. We've got a client actually that I spoke to last week that's hoping to become a Blue Bear supplier, and they're going to make a coffee and donut shop out of their garage, which I love. So I think there'll be more creative cost-saving solutions. I think that'll be one of the big changes. And I think one of the things we did previously, our partners would fly all over the world visiting these coffee farms, and we bragged about that because it gave us great oversight. Now that oversight still takes place; it's through partnership. We can't do that anymore. I don't think we can, not just from a COVID point of view and the restrictions, but from a carbon footprint point of view. I think we need to rethink that. The amount of traveling that takes place. How can we do things more efficiently? How can we do things more economically? So I think the industry will change. I think you will see less coffee shops taking that £50,000 spot on the high street, because it's just not sustainable. And the fear that must exist if you have a lease that's not a generous one, and you don't have a particularly forgiving landlord, and the thought of another lockdown being thousands of pounds going out your pocket, I think that will deter people from making those investments. So that's my prediction.
Yeah, we actually in the village that I live in, there was a coffee shop that was about to open just as lockdown hit last year, and the communities kind of surrounded them and have helped them through this. So whenever they've been able to open, they've had to take away coffees or anything like that. But the community have tried to sustain them to get through this period, so that hopefully as restrictions ease, that hopefully they'll be able to come back strong after this last 12 months. But I think the communities can definitely help, especially these little independent coffee shops. I think they're probably the ones that are the hardest hit. Yes, the bigger companies, they've been hit as well, but they've got bigger infrastructure that could probably have helped them through this, whereas those small independents are, they don't have that. They've probably put their life savings into starting their shops, and fingers crossed that these little shops can still survive through all of this.
Well, I think that's a really positive observation in regard to there has been great growth in community business. There's almost been a devolution away from the high street and actually looking inwards and looking to rather than make that trip into the city. Well, what have we got in our local village? And I love that. And that's where you will get more generous landlords, you will get more forgiving leases, and that community spirit of a collective sense. Well, we want to have a coffee shop in our town. The only way it's going to survive is if we use it. And I've got a good friend that owns a string of specialty coffee companies up here. He opened a coffee shop recently. He already has 3. He's opened a new one because they've been doing so well. And I think that's going after that audience. It's the local community audience, and so that's a positive product of COVID, probably.
Yeah, and how have you seen your kind of sales? I know you said like some of the wholesalers have kind of fallen away, but has kind of the personal use increased as well?
It has massively. I think our second year of sales was up to 200% on our first year, and we have benefited from people wanting nice coffee and drinking it from home and making it part of their daily habits to treat themselves to that. I mean, they're saving so much money from not going out and about, not being able to have posh coffee in shops. So why not treat yourself to a kilogram or a 220-gram bag of really nice coffee at the start of the day, enjoying coffees at home. So we've benefited, and the fact that we built this business without huge overheads, we operate as lean as possible for the sole purpose of having more money to contribute at the end of the year to donate. It's meant that we weren't hugely at risk. Which has turned out to be prudent, and that's not necessarily my wise forethought. I've come up with some terrible blinking ideas, but just we've been blessed enough that none of them have worked out. So at the moment, we still operate on an extremely lean budget, and we've done well this year.
Yeah, and for anyone that's looking to kind of start an online business, be it selling physical products or even just services, what would your advice be to them?
I would say call Jason Kruger. He is your man. No, I think the online space, it has to be where you start. I mean, any business now, they need to really, if you're a local window cleaner, you've got to look at what your online presence is like. It's no longer a supplement. It now needs to be a core part of your business. And I think online businesses are going to be really exciting going forward. The challenge is to, how do you still foster an online community? How do people all over the country feel like they're part of something? I think that's what we want. We want to feel part of something. We want to feel that our contribution is going somewhere. And I think more and more people want to know where their products are coming from.
Yeah.
Where has this come from? Has it been shipped across the world? Is the person that created it being treated fairly? Are they being paid fairly? Is the byproducts being stored correctly and disposed of correctly, or is it causing all manner of trouble, like so many elements of our consumerist behavior does? And so I think we're growing, and that's a good move. People might say it's a bit too late. Hopefully not. Yeah. Hopefully not. But so yes, I think online businesses will continue to flourish. And we're interested, how else can we grow our community? What else can we expand into? What else can we do to meet our mission and objectives? So I'm looking forward to seeing what's to come. Thanks, Mark. Mark, it's been good to have you on the chat too.
And thanks, Mark. I've known Mark for a number of years. I actually think I met him at an online marketing conference somewhere. It's been a lot, many years now. And Mark's also in video and stuff like that. So thanks very much for that question, Mark. But like when you started on online, and we will wrap this up very soon, is what advice, what was something that you learned kind of when you first started out about kind of starting an online business? It's the businesses that I help, and it just, to my viewers, what are the kind of some of the things or some of the lessons that you've kind of learned along the way, kind of starting an online business?
Oh gosh, I mean, one of the main things I learned pretty early on was I followed some advice from a friend that said, spend as little money as you can at the start. And I think that was very sage. I had this grand idea of not being an online business, actually, to go after the trafficking theme, the transit theme, to have mobile coffee units up and down the country in key transport hubs, be them major London train stations or airports. And it would have been a huge investment from the start. It would have meant a really difficult workforce to oversee when everyone's so disparately located. It would have been a massive ask. And a friend said, well, why don't you start smaller and think bigger? And what's great about having an online business is that we get to send coffee to Glasgow, to Northern Ireland, to Cornwall, prior to Brexit, sorry to mention it, we sent it to different places all over Europe. We still send coffee to the US. That's amazing. It's amazing.
Yes.
that it's not, we get to contact. I mean, we have a podcast, and I check the statistics on it and the data, and it gets downloaded in the UAE, it gets downloaded in South Africa, it gets downloaded in Colombia. You think, who are these people? But we have that reach because of our online presence, because of the fact it didn't start the coffee shop, even though I would have loved it to have. I have this romantic ideal, like most of us do, about having a beautiful retrofitted coffee shop. But I'm pleased that we went with the online. As long as you use people that know what they're doing, then it's not as intimidating a space as you might think. I don't have any experience in web building or coding or anything like that, and I knew how my way around the Shopify platform, how to put on blogs, how to change products, etc. And Jason is now teaching me how to do that with our new website and our new products. And if I can do it, believe me, anybody can. So don't be intimidated by the idea of going online. I think it's well worth confronting.
And what would you say, kind of to start online, what would you need? Is it kind of a website?
Yeah, start with a domain name. Go on your domain name website, such as GoDaddy or whatever, and Wix or whatever, find something that you're happy. You might not be able to get your .com, but you might get a .org or a .net or a .co.uk, and that's it. Start there, and or you might have to put a hyphen in the middle or whatever. If you want to buy a domain name that costs about 12 grand, I wouldn't recommend that. But that's it. Then there are plenty of self-build websites if you don't have the budget to employ a web builder, and you can make something okay. And when you have a budget, it can be it can be developed by a professional. But you just get going and make that leap is what I would say.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of people kind of get stuck with knowing exactly where to start, and then they get the tech overwhelm, and then they just go back. A lot of them already might have a 9-to-5 job, and it's something that they're starting part-time, and something that they actually want to move to full-time, because that might be their passion. But it's just take that leap of faith and just do it. Sometimes, yes, you might need a little bit of help along the way, and there are different outlets for that. You don't always have to employ someone. There are a lot of free resources out there, YouTube and all that. For example, I have my own kind of repository of videos and all that I'm putting together, so that people can go to these kind of safe places to find the information, because yes, there is so much information out there, but sometimes you just need to be a bit more focused and just follow one or two people and just get it done, and not find the next shiny object.
Yeah, it's good advice. And it is, we're all restricted by our own budgets, but where possible, I like to use people that know what they're doing. I have a fantastic graphic designer, a fantastic web builder in you, Jason, a great accountant, and the nature of our business means that everybody tends to either work pro bono or gives us a great rate. But rather than me do a really hash job of it, use people with their skills, and then focus on what skills you have. Your passion, whatever you have to drive your business that nobody else can do. That's your sweet spot. If there's areas of weakness, then obviously budget depending, then I think it's important to use people that know what they're doing where possible.
Yeah, I see a lot of clients do that. They will, they are constrained by budgets, but then when they start to be able to afford other people, that's when I see them have a lot of growth, because when you're trying to do everything yourself, and it's stuff that you're not passionate about, or stuff that you have to first learn to do, it just makes everything that much longer to get to where you want to be. And I do unfortunately see a lot of people give up in that journey because they get overwhelmed by having to do everything themselves. And sometimes it is a case of just looking to think strategically and see what things could you ask someone else to do, just to help you along. And sometimes just having that little bit of extra investment in getting someone in to help you can actually grow your business a lot quicker. And after a while, that cost is negligible. It's because they're helping you build your business. So I think we're going to wrap it up there. I think we covered quite a lot there in today's, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this. It's been fascinating, but also telling your story about Blue Bear, but then how you've come on online and how you see your Blue Bear going into the future. It's been great to hear.
Well, thank you, Jason. No, it's been a joy to spend the morning with you, and yeah, it's been a long time coming, this chat, but it was great to talk, and we're so pleased to have you. It's become such a core part of our business. So thank you for all you do.
No, it's my pleasure. It's I thoroughly enjoy working with you and finding more about coffee as well. I'm learning a bit more as we go along, especially on the logistics side and all that. I speak to Clifton as well to make sure that everything is working correctly for them as well. So it's a great learning experience for myself as well. But I get to help a great cause. It's a pleasure working with you. So if people want to find you online, where can we find you?
Yeah, bluebearcoffee.com is our website. You can follow us on social media, please do, which is if you go on Instagram or Facebook at Blue Bear Coffee Co. should find us. And then we have a a podcast I briefly mentioned where we discuss all manner of justice issues. It's called the Justice and Coffee Podcast, and if you search that on pretty much any podcasting platform, you should encounter us.
Oh, excellent. So, if you really do want to support Bryn and Blue Bear Coffee and the bigger cause around the coffee, then yeah, please go to bluebearcoffee.com and try one of the coffees. You won't be disappointed. And if you want something different, then maybe subscribe to the coffee club as well, and definitely try the chocolate. It is really good. And get one of the keep mugs. There's the glass ones with the cork. There's others with the silicone, and then there's also the thermal cups as well. So go and have a look at all of that.
What a fantastic plug! Yes, thank you.
My pleasure. I enjoy it. So I'm going to promote what I enjoy using myself. So.
Good man.
So now, thank you very much, Bryn. I think we'll end it there. I think I've taken enough of your morning now as well. Hopefully you get your broadband sorted tomorrow. And we managed to get through it without you dropping off. Everything's been tethered through Bryn's phone. So it's been amazing that we've been able to chat this long without any disconnect.
Miracle.
Yeah, don't we love technology?
Thanks, Jason. It's been great chatting.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Bye. So there we go. I've been promising that interview for a while now, and I hope that you got a lot out of that interview. And again, if you really do want to support Bryn, then please go to bluebearcoffee.com. Now, I will be back again next week. And if you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, please just click on the subscribe button and click on the notification bell so that you get notified when I next post a video. And if you're on Facebook, then please like the page as well. So have a great weekend, and just remember, you can do it. Sometimes you just need a little help. Have a great weekend.